So, good morning, everybody. It's kind of nice and a little bit strange to speak to you like this. I can't see you at all, so I'm just speaking to my computer here like a crazy person. So first of all, I'd just kind of like to congratulate the three members of my team on their presentation yesterday. We kind of threw them in the deep end and said they must just go and do something, otherwise they can't go up to you. And they kind of stood up to this challenge. Well done. So I titled my presentation Learner Learning Centered Digital Learning at Wits, and I'm doing that because the presentation was not for my own staff, because really I would like for us to stop speaking about things like digital learning as if it's something different to learning. So just in terms of a concept clarification, we talk about blended learning as if it's something that we do deliberately to try to get a blend, and I think that's perhaps the wrong way to think about it. I think blended learning is something that results through a process of thoughtful curriculation. So you start and you do a curriculation, and at some stage during that process you get to what we call a blend, and it's a consequence, it's not an objective. So when I speak about learning and you don't hear me speaking about e-learning or digital technologies, this kind of thing, it's just because in 2018 I don't think that we should do business in another way. We should be using technology as a default mode. So I wanted to speak briefly about some of the achievements that we've reached so far at Wits University, and I'll skip through it. We've got a really solid professional learning program. We've got quite a booklet full of course offerings that we've already got dealing with teaching and learning and research. Last year we spent a lot of our time to try and stabilize our LMS, and I think we've done that, and we've handed LMS back to our ICT team, because last year our center was actually running the LMS itself, and that took us away from our core business. So I'm happy to say we got rid of the LMS's technical aspects, and we can focus on what we're really supposed to be doing, which is using the educational technology for facilitation of teaching and learning. We've got a nice MOOC team, and they're doing brilliant work, and we're kind of really proud of the MOOCs that we're putting out at the moment. And we do have some academics using educational technologies effectively. I have to say, unfortunately, we suffered some damage around around our LMS, and because it's been unstable, people that don't trust the LMS, so they don't want to use the LMS, and we've got too many people not using educational technologies, mainly because I think we've differentiated e-learning from learning. So people think, okay, if I teach in class, then I've done my job, and e-learning is something different. That's optional. I don't have to do that. So that's part of the reason why I don't like this differentiating between learning and e-learning, because it opens up that avenue to say, but e-learning is something additional. I don't have to do that. And many of our lecturing staff, unfortunately, suffer a little bit from lack of reading about how learning occurs. So they think that students can only learn when they are guided through the learning process by face-to-face facilitation. And that's a sad reality in our environment. Again, I think our lecturers don't always understand learning theory as much as they do their own subject matter expertise, and as a matter of principle, I think if you teach in higher education, you should have some kind of a theoretical framework that you use as a basis for understanding teaching and learning and how to facilitate learning. I don't think you should be teaching without having some kind of a framework of understanding how learning occurs and how it can be facilitated. Some of our near future priorities. In the centre itself, we're a little bit disjointed, and the centre's a little bit removed from the university's business as a whole as well. So we've got 4 departments in CLTD. We've got evaluation and student support and e-learning, and we've got curriculum, professional learning programs as well. And at the moment, they're working kind of independently, and they should really be working together, and one learning from the other, and one's business being informed by the other, and so on. We need to get to the point where our academics understand that teaching is not about standing up in front of a class, but it's actually got a lot to do with developing of curricula in a way that students can learn independently. To a little bit of a at the moment, and we're going to do quite a bit of professional learning for our team, because we need, at this stage, because our capacity is somewhat constrained, we need like real good all-round capabilities, and at the moment we've got lots of specialists, and actually need people to be able to, everybody to be able to do everything, if that makes any sense. We need our practitioners to move into the faculties, because the work is there. The work is not in our centre's building. It's actually out in the faculties where the academics are. So we need to shift our focus into the faculties. We need to move to third stream income in a big way. I think universities in general, I think, need to do a lot more to generate third stream income, because I think our customer base is being eroded by external parties, and if we don't respond, we're going to find ourselves in trouble quite soon. We have a focus on student and staff digital literacy. Again, it's kind of part of moving people into the area where digital learning is just the acceptable norm rather than something different. And we are going to configure our learning spaces a little bit to help us to have an impact in the faculties. Sorry, I'm working on 2 computers at the same time, so the slide progression might not be as good as it could be. So when I say working together, and especially in our centre, I think that our people who deal with lecture evaluation, for example, need to inform our academic professional learning programs, and our professional learning programs need to demonstrate optimal, effective use of technology, and that should happen within the context of a constructively aligned curriculum. So I don't think we're doing that well enough at the moment, and we'll be doing quite a bit of that in the year to come. I think just working together on our offering of professional learning programs and getting to know what our business is really about, so that we can model best practice to our academic staff. We have this thing where we talk blended learning, but when people come to us for our learning programs, then we have face-to-face facilitation. And so our lecturers go back and they say, okay, we're doing this really well because we're doing exactly what the people from CLTD is doing. So we need to get better at that. Diana said I might be speaking a little bit about how to develop for digital learning. And really all I want to say is, I think we have lots of models and theories, and that often distracts us from doing the basics right. So I think what I'd like for us to focus on is to get to a process of constructively aligned outcomes-based learning programs, where we make sure that our scripting of learning interactions is sufficient for learners to be able to learn independently. I think one of the challenges that you have in the classroom and with face-to-face facilitation is that all of the learning interactions are embedded within the facilitator. So students can't learn unless they've got a lecturer telling them what to do. So when we do our online learning interactions anyway, we need to script it in such a way that when students drop into that online space and there's no facilitator available, the course itself and the way in which the course is scripted need to be able to guide the students along the learning interactions that are required so that they can learn independently. We can't get cross with students because they're not learning independently, but we don't tell them what they need to do when they learn independently. I want many of our programs, most of our programs, to actually be online as far as possible. And for many reasons. One of them is being that students can then learn online away from campus. But what we've realized is that for a course to move online, you have to actually have a properly planned course. You have to have planned learning interactions, which at the moment I don't think happens often enough. I think lecturers walk into a classroom and they start talking. So if we want to get people online, they actually need to have course guides first so that we can work from the course guides into the online environment. So getting people online implies having course guides for the students so that they can learn independently. Again, if we're going to use learner analytics, and that's another conversation, we need data points, which means we have to have learning interactions occurring online so that we can track and measure and analyze them. And yeah, so we want online learning spaces where students can go and carry on learning when they're away from the classroom, and be guided through those learning interactions through proper learning scripts. As far as right and multi-skilling is concerned, what we did last year is we focused a lot of our attention on our LMS. So instead of moving into the faculties and focusing on learning and teaching, we were actually focusing on technology and getting the LMS up and running. So we're going to return our focus back to teaching and learning now. We're going to work really hard at removing the distinction between curriculum design, professional learning, educational technology. We want to find coherence between our professional learning programs and how we go about designing curriculum and having educational technology seamlessly embedded into that process. Not as if it's three different things, but more like it's one thing, one complete thing with everything appropriately embedded. At the moment, Diana was quoting some numbers about the number of people that she's got. I think we've got 11 odd people that needs to service the whole university, and we're getting for more quite soon. But that's it. That's kind of our staff complement, and we can't have specialists, unfortunately, and be able to make any impact. So our service model is going to be entirely different to what it would have been if we had many, many more people. And part of our process of getting our people multi-skilled is to buy that kind of expertise in. At the moment, we just don't have the capacity to do everything for ourselves, and we've got some grant funding, and we'll be using some of the grant funding to actually move our business processes along. CLT at the moment, those of you who know Wits' campus or the old showgrounds, we're sitting in the far southwest corner of the campus, and because of kind of lack of staff capacity more than anything else perhaps, we've kind of withdrawn into that corner space, and we're just not effective. So we need to move our practice out of our building and into the faculties, because that's where the real needs are. And I'm worried also, a bit of a challenge though, that if we do start doing that eventually we start getting effective and people wants to use our services, and then we don't have capacity. So we'll have to find a way to deal with that. At the moment, I think we're so scared of going into the faculties because we might get jobs and then not be able to deliver on demand. But we'll deal with that. Part of dealing with that is actually getting the academics to understand the role of the facilitator of learning in 2018, that they need to have educational technology skills. They can't rely on somebody else. Dankie Dolf. So when I say re-engineering our professional learning programs, I can summarize that by saying we need to practice what we preach. We can't expect of lecturers to come into our environment for professional learning programs, and we're doing stuff in the way that we don't want them to do it. So if we want blended learning approaches in the classrooms, our own learning programs needs to follow that process. So we started moving in that direction to actually have some of our programs designed in that way, that they are blended learning programs. And what that is when we speak abstractly about blended learning, it's kind of difficult to understand what is meant by that. But as soon as you walk into an interaction where you have the interaction facilitated in a blended fashion, then you've got some kind of a frame of reference for when you go back to your own classroom to understand exactly what it is that we're talking about. So we have to re-engineer our professional learning programs to model that which we want to see changed in our facilitation in the classrooms. I'm not going to say a lot about MOOCs other than we've got a really good MOOC team and they delivering brilliant MOOCs, and we use edX as a platform, so if you want to go and look at our courses, they're pretty good. And so MOOCs, we're using that for a couple of reasons, and making money is not one of them. It's costing us quite a lot of money, but we want to learn about retention. So you know that people join MOOCs and they go away and you've got very, very low success rates. And we want to use this as an experimental, as a laboratory almost, to understand what we can do in this space to make learners stick, so that we can bring it back to our other online programs, so that we can design for stickability. We do attract some students from the MOOCs into our formal programs. So it's kind of a laboratory for us, and it's kind of a space where we can brag about all the nice things that you saw Shogun's presentation yesterday. So we want to show the world what Shogun can do with his video editing. They're really good at that. And Dominique is the leader of the team. She's actually a really, really good learning designer. Third stream income, I spoke about that before. I think our challenge in higher education is really funding. And I think we've been looking for one single solution to the funding issue, and we won't find it. We're going to have to find many small contributions to the problem. So third stream income is certainly one of those avenues that we have to exploit. We want to convert ourselves into a Microsoft certified assessment center, because we hear noises that teaching will be professionalized and there will be CPD points, and we want to be ready when that happens. We want to take our professional learning programs and monetize them outside of the university. We want to start designing in a different way. At the moment, we design full programs. What we want to do is to kind of disaggregate our full programs into little bits, so that you can sell micro-credentials commercially. And then those little micro-credentials should add up into the program. So you should have almost an on-demand ability to register for a micro-learning credential, pay us lots of money, and if you've done enough of them, we have to find some kind of an RPL basis for aggregating micro-credentials into full qualifications. I'm thinking conceptually now, and we'll see if it's possible, but I think we need to look at how we can become more self-sustainable than we are at the moment.
1 minute, Gerrit.
We've got thank you so much. And so we've got a big mandate for working on our staff and student digital literacy programs, and we've got some ways to approach that. We want to use Microsoft Imagine Academy, for example, and get certification of basic computer skills. When our students do a program on Word, for example, they must be able to get certification. Finally, we want to reconfigure some of our learning spaces. We want to have some experimental learning areas. We've got studios in every one of our faculties now with a computer and a video camera and software to do some video editing and some audio equipment, so that a lot of the times lecturers say, but we don't have the equipment to do this stuff, so we want to enable lecturers to do their own recording in their own faculties as well. And we want to place some centers for educational technologies in the faculties, and I've spoken about that earlier, that we want to put educational learning designers kind of people in the faculties where our academics are, because it's kind of just difficult for them to come to our center. It's just easier for them if we find them in their own spaces. All right, and so basically that's where we want to go to at Wits. We're a long way off. We've got a lot to do. We've got lots of support from senior management. So I'm hoping that with their support, we're going to be able to deliver on the mandate that they've given to us. Thank you.
Thank you.